Hi there, welcome to my financial markets recap for the week. It's John Bannon here from ComhlaTech.com. How are you all today? Before we get to the news, a little update on the system itself. What happened? It was a bit of a wild week this week in the markets. If you're watching the markets, big swings. Started the week really crazy, came down hard. Thank goodness I wasn't part of that. Really bad day on Monday for any investors that are long that market. That was pretty scary stuff. Lots of news. We'll talk about the reasons for that in a minute. But big scary drops this week, followed by a pretty rapid recovery. We caught the tail end of the recovery. Took a profit today. Quite happy with that, especially after this wild week of trading. To take in any kind of profit in this kind of market, very volatile market. Quite happy to do that, right? Quite a feat actually. So, congratulations to all the ComhlaTech members that were able to take a profit out of the market this week with us. So that was great. Another trade next week. We shall see where it goes. We're expecting a bit more volatility in the coming weeks, up until the sort of mid of October. So that's sort of, we'll see some jumping around quite a bit there. What's going to cause that? Who knows? But certainly that's where we're expecting to happen. Obviously seasonally too, it's expecting that. But then big rally into the end of the year. Let's see what happens there. So great to get a win today. So that was the system update. What was the main news over the week this week? Well, I mean, the big news that people were really looking for at the beginning of the week was the Fed. What are the Fed going to do? Because they had their meeting, monthly meeting in September, and it was the will they, won't they question that was on the lips of every investor, right? Are they going to make any changes? Well, no one's expecting to make any changes, but there's always that possibility that it could surprise the market. And they didn't surprise the market. However, they did say that possibly in November they'll be looking to shrink its stimulus program, so less bond buying coming in November, and potentially raise interest rates next year. So nothing this year. That is obviously good news for the market. The market rebounded on that news from Wednesday onwards. So what the market wanted to hear, obviously, but they might be reducing the bond buying, which may cause some problems in the market because it likes the stimulus, right? So interest rates have remained incredibly low since the beginning of the pandemic, and it was really to help the economy recover from this pandemic. Businesses closed down, record number of people lost their jobs, obviously, and now the Fed's saying the economy is coming back strong. Maybe not as strong as they hoped it would be, but it's certainly stronger than it's strong enough for them to start considering these things. And so we could find out more next month in November. So we'll see what they do. Other news we have is the really big news that this week was the real estate giant Evergrande or Evergrande. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but they're a massive real estate firm in China. They are the second largest property developer in China, and they've got a $30 billion market cap, which actually pales in comparison to what they owe. They have about $300 billion in debt. That just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, to put that in perspective, that debt is equivalent to about the 2% of China's GDP, which is obviously the second largest economy in the world. I mean, that is a monster amount of debt they're carrying there. Big firm, too big to fail, possibly. They were due to pay an $83 million payment on their interests for that $300 billion of debt. Yesterday, it didn't go through. Caused a fair bit of jitters because that was sort of talked about on Monday and Sunday that might happen, and that's what's happened. Too big to fail sort of comes to mind. That all eyes are on the regulators. This may need a rare Chinese government intervention where it brings a bailout. They were allowed to renegotiate some payments earlier this month, so it shows some willingness to keep the company alive by the Chinese government and by their stakeholders. However, this is a big deal, right? I mean, it's a case of it's not the size of the whale, it's the size of the splash it makes, and analysts are worrying that Evergrande could default, and that default will cause an effect in the global economy and some kind of contagion, right? So that was the big concern on Monday. That being said, no payment was made yesterday on that $83 million that was due. not technically a default, because apparently they've got 30 days to make the payment. So we shall see if the regulator step in, or Chinese government steps in, or some other stakeholder steps in, right? But that's a lot of debt that's carrying there, so a bit of a concern for the market there. And speaking of China, they banned Bitcoin. I mean, this is big news, right? I mean, I know they don't like Bitcoin, they've said that for a long time now, but to actually completely ban it and make it a legal activity is quite phenomenal. They may be the first country to ban Bitcoin, but it won't be the last. I've said in past commentaries, any sovereign nation, a central bank has the power to regulate and eliminate any competitor to its own currency. And that country took that step on Friday. An extraordinary move by China there. Its central bank just made all cryptocurrency related activities illegal. The value of Bitcoin did come down hard this week, and remains not as hard as I would expect it to be honest. I thought it would come down a lot more than that, but certainly it's pointing down, and probably could see some more selling in Bitcoin in not too distant future. The bottom line is, what China did may well be repeated in other countries. So while crypto should be here to stay, I mean, I think the digital world, crypto, the concept of it is here to stay for sure. It just might not be the ones that are, not accepted by the regulator or regulated by the central banks of the big nations. If China's saying no to it, then what futures does Bitcoin really have, right? Because they'll be pushing their new E-yuan when that finally comes to pass. So that'll be possibly a transfer between Bitcoin and the new E-yuan. So Bitcoin will still hold some value. We'll see. Really big deal there. And in government news, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is confident that Congress will agree on a new spending bill to avoid the potential government shutdown next week. Over the years we've had this conversation a few times where the government shutdown is looming and someone's holding it up. So from a political point of view, that will probably happen again. Efforts to pass the new budget is underway at Capitol Hill, where the House Democrats earlier this week already approved the measure to fund the government and suspend the debt ceiling and approve the emergency aid for disaster relief. So now it's over to Congress. Let the games begin, as I said. So, well, they won't they, right? I'm sure they'll leave it to the last second, as always. And last point today was a fun fact. Would you believe it? Earth has 3 trillion trees, apparently. It's a new sum, and it's said to be quite accurate. It's run by out of Yale University and other scientists, and they think that that's about the right number. The planet boasts roughly 420 trees for every living person. So an earlier count pegged the global tree population at only 400 billion, so this is a big change, but they're quite confident in the numbers now that's what they're saying is 3 trillion trees, because the previous studies used less sophisticated methods apparently. However, the more sobering find is that scientists calculated that roughly 15.3 billion trees are cut down each year, and humanity as a whole has reduced the Earth's tree population by nearly half since civilization began. So that's a big deal. Obviously, we can't keep that up. So that's not such a fun fact. So we need to do better there, I think, certainly. So that's it for me. It is the weekend. It's time to down tools. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.